The 4 things you must do to break any addiction. Number 1, change your emotional response towards your substance. Let me explain what I mean. Your brain is split into 2 halves. Conscious, that's everything you're aware of right now, very small. Then subconscious or unconscious, I like the word unconscious, that's everything that goes on beneath your awareness. So Freud used a very simple analogy of an iceberg in the ocean. He said, if you look at an iceberg in the ocean, you have sea level, and above sea level, the tip of the iceberg above the sea, the bit you can see, that's your conscious, very small. If you look beneath the sea level, your unconscious, the vast proportion of that iceberg, those things that go on beneath sea level that you're not aware of. Now, when you're born with a very simplistic functionality of things you can do. You cry, you sleep, you feed, you go to the toilet. That's more or less what you do consciously. Of course, you have your autonomic nervous system that runs at your breathing, your respiratory, your core temperature, your blood pressure, all of those things. But you're born with a limited functionality on a conscious level. Everything else you now do, you have to learn to do. And all learning works in the same way, by repetition. So you learn to walk. You do it over and over again, and then you consciously know how to walk. It goes from conscious into your unconscious. It's almost like a vault that wraps around it to protect it, to ensure you don't forget the very thing you learn to do. You learn to talk, you learn to do your shoelace up, you learn to swim, you learn to drive. There are millions of things you now do that you once learned how to do. Let's use driving a car. That's a very simplistic one. You learn clutch, mirror, indicator, accelerator. And when you were learning, you had to concentrate. It was like, don't talk to me, I'm focusing, I'm concentrating. But eventually you mastered the art of learning to drive. And it went from conscious, we are aware of it, into your unconscious, a vault wraps around it to protect it, so you don't have to think about it anymore. Now that works very efficiently and very effectively when it comes to learning processes. But there's no filter mechanism to distinguish between positive, negative, good, bad. You learn them all in exactly the same way. So when you start having an addiction, whatever substance it may be, you start to learn this new process. You might use on a weekend, you might drink on a weekend. Whatever you do, you begin to create hooks. Those hooks become learned in the unconscious mind. When you have a bad day, when you have a good day, when you have good news, when you have an argument, when you get a bill, when you get a payment out. So all of these hooks, these emotional hooks, go in your unconscious mind. Now, your unconscious mind is formed from the moment you're born. Your upbringing, your education, your occupation, your financial capacity, your values, what's important to you. And your values change over your lifetime. Your beliefs, what you believe to be true. There are 2 types of belief. There's a factual belief. The world's round. Someone tries to disprove it, comes up with the same solution. That becomes a factual belief. Then you have a personal belief. That is something you personally believe to be true, that some may also believe to be true, but not necessarily everybody believes to be true. That could be how you bring up children. It could be a religion, a faith. And then, of course, you have your experiences. That's everything you've ever done. And in the blink of an eye, all of that information is processed for you to respond, to like, dislike, to do, to avoid. It all comes from the unconscious that you've taught yourself. Now, in order to successfully get over any addiction, you've got to change an unconscious process. You've got to change your emotional reaction so you don't feel the same way. That's number 1.